If you own or manage a rental property in Scotland, put the 6th October 2026 in your diary, because 3 changes come into force on the same day. And while one of them will affect day-to-day property management much more often than others, landlords should understand all 3 changes. The first change is Awaab's law. From the 6th October, new statutory timescales come into force around reports of damp and mould. Private landlords will need to investigate reports within 10 working days. They will then need to provide a written summary of the investigation within 3 working days. And where repairs are required, those repairs must begin within 5 working days of the investigation. That makes maintenance systems and record keeping increasingly important. If a tenant reports mould, landlords need to know who is dealing with it, when the clock started, and what happens afterwards. I've done a separate Landlord's Desk video specifically on Awaab's law because there is much more detail to unpack there. The 2nd October change, it concerns wrongful termination. If a landlord misleads a tenant or the first tier tribunal into ending a tenancy, the former tenant can potentially apply for compensation. From 6 October, that compensation increases to between 3 and 36 times the monthly rent. Where the rent is below £840 a month, this is used as the minimum monthly figure for calculating that payment. This is particularly relevant where landlords are using grounds such as intention to sell or an intention to move into the property. These grounds need to genuinely apply. It is not simply a box to tick in order to recover possession. Again, I've done a separate video on wrongful termination because the potential consequences justify a proper explanation. The 3rd change is probably less likely to affect most landlords day to day, but it's still important. It concerns succession rights. Private residential tenancy can, in certain circumstances, pass to a qualifying member of the household following the death of the named tenant. At the moment, one of the requirements involves a qualifying person having lived in the property for 12 months. From 6 October, that qualifying period reduces from 12 to 6 months. So somebody who meets the other succession requirements may be able to take over the tenancy after living there for a shorter period. It is not something that most landlords will deal with regularly, but if a tenant dies and another household member is living in the property, do not assume the tenancy automatically ends and the property simply comes back to you. Check whether succession rights apply before taking action. So those are the 3 changes arriving on the 6th of October 2026. New damp and mould timescales through Awaab's law, significantly increased compensation for wrongful termination, and a reduction from 12 months to 6 months in the qualifying residence period for certain tenancy succession rights. There are other changes to Scottish private rented sector coming later. For example, some measures in the Housing Scotland Act 2025 have a later commencement dates or do not yet have a date confirmed. So be careful with the headline suggestion that every proposed landlord change comes into force this October. These are the 3 changes currently listed by the Scottish Government website for 6 October 2026. For most landlords, Awaab's law is the one I would prepare operationally for now. Make sure your maintenance reporting system works, make sure repairs can be escalated quickly, and make sure you keep proper written records. If you are considering ending a tenancy, particularly on the ground connected to something you intend to do with the property afterwards, understand the wrongful termination rules before serving notice. And if you ever find yourself dealing with the death of a tenant, check the succession position rather than assuming the tenancy has simply ended. None of this means landlords need to panic, but the date is close enough now that I'll look at it later is probably not a great strategy. I'm Brian from Be Listed. This is the Landlord's Desk. As I mentioned, I have separate videos going into Awaab's law and wrongful termination in more detail. So if either of these affect you, have a look at those next.